Womanjeka everyone, Womanjeka meaning welcome. My name is Auntie Julianne and I'm an out of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people, and in recognition of doing my welcome to country, I'd like to pay my respects to my elders past, present, future and any elders that were here today, and I would also like to welcome you all here today. The Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung tribe consists of three families, the Nevins, the Terricks and the Wandins, and I'm part of the Nevin family. The three families all descend from one woman called Annie Bharat, which makes us one big family. Annie Bharat is the youngest sister of William Barrett, a pioneer for Aboriginal people in the 19th century, fighting for equality and land rights. I'm here today to welcome you all to the land of my ancestors. We call the land within our tribal boundaries our country. The Kulin Nation, Kulin meaning man, is made up of 5 groups. They are the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung, Boonwurrung, Tanarong, Wathaurong and Dja Dja Wurrung. And to give you an outline of the Wurundjeri country and the area we cover. Wurundjeri country extends from north to the Great Dividing Range, east to Mount Baw Baw, south to the Mooloolah Creek and west to the Werribee River. We cover a diverse range of land from the mountains to the beach and everything in between. Many thousands of years ago, if an Aboriginal person from another tribe wanted to cross our boundary, they would have to sit at the boundary and wait for the Narragadah, which is the headman, or an elder to come past to give permission to cross. Traditional Aboriginal culture was highly territorial, and visitors risked a violent reprisal for crossing a tribal or clan boundary without this permission, and this is how a welcome to country originated in our culture. Traditionally, being welcomed onto country meant you respected Bunjil's law. Bunjil, the wedge-tailed eagle, is our creator, and Wah the crow is our protector. And as long as you looked after the country, you had access to our waterways and our land resources. And when you enter our country, we ask that you respect our resources, our fauna, flora and water, as they are very special to us. And when you are ready to leave, we ask that you leave it the way you found it.
We have lots of council services that support our community. We support families with children, including health services for children and mums, vaccinations, playgroups, childcare, and kinder. We support young people in our community. Through events and activities, we have services that can support people with disability, older people, and carers and family of people with disability and older people. Our libraries support everyone in our community, help people learn new things, and are free to join. We support our community to have fun and be active through events and activities, sport, and recreation areas. We help look after our places and spaces, the environment, and local businesses. We have laws to keep people safe, to make sure buildings are safe, to make sure roads and footpaths are safe, to make sure our places and spaces are safe. We make sure everyone follows the law to keep our community safe and happy. Moonee Valley. It's a great place to live, work, and visit.
Woman Jika, everyone. Woman Jika meaning welcome. My name is Auntie Julianne, and I'm an out of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people. And in recognition of doing my welcome to country, I'd like to pay my respects to my elders, past, present, future, and any elders that were here today. And I would also like to welcome you all here today. The Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung tribe consists of 3 families, the Nevins, the Terricks, and the Wandins, and I'm part of the Nevin family. The 3 families all descend from one woman called Annie Barratt, which makes us one big family. Annie Barratt is the youngest sister of William Barratt, a pioneer for Aboriginal people in the 19th century, fighting for equality and land rights. I'm here today to welcome you all to the land of my ancestors. We call the land within our tribal boundaries our country. The Kulin Nation, Kulin meaning man, is made up of 5 groups. They are the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung, Boonwurrung, Tanarong, Wathaurong and Dja Dja Wurrung. And to give you an outline of the Wurundjeri country and the area we cover. Wurundjeri country extends from north to the Great Dividing Range, east to Mount Baw Baw, south to the Morley Creek and west to the Werribee River. We cover a diverse range of land from the mountains to the beach and everything in between. Many thousands of years ago, if an Aboriginal person from another tribe wanted to cross our boundary, They would have to sit at the boundary and wait for the Narragadah, which is the headman, or an elder to come past to give permission to cross. Traditional Aboriginal culture was highly territorial, and visitors risked a violent reprisal for crossing a tribal or clan boundary without this permission, and this is how a welcome to country originated in our culture. Traditionally, being welcomed onto country meant you respected Bunjil's law. Bunjil, the wedge-tailed eagle, is our creator, and Wah the crow is our protector. And as long as you looked after the country, you had access to our waterways and our land resources. And when you enter our country, we ask that you respect our resources, our fauna, flora and water, as they are very special to us. And when you are ready to leave, we ask that you leave it the way you found it.
Welcome everyone to the Council meeting on the 24th of June 2025, which I now declare open at 6:30 p.m. I'd like to warmly welcome members of the public who have joined us tonight, as well as those watching online. As well as being live streamed, the video recording of this meeting will also be available on our website, so attendees in the gallery are advised that your presence may be recorded. I also ask that mobile phones be switched to silent mode during the meeting. A reminder as well to the public in the gallery that as per Governance Rule 75.1, personal video and audio recordings are not allowed. On behalf of Moonee Valley City Council, I respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which Moonee Valley is located, the Wurundjeri Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and I pay my respect to their spirits, ancestors, community members and elders past, present and emerging. We also extend this respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. We now move to item 2 on the agenda, apologies and leave of absence. As all councillors are in attendance, I don't believe there are any apologies or leave of absence. We now move to item 3 on the agenda, confirmation of minutes. Councillors, can I please have a mover and a seconder that the minutes from the council meeting held on Tuesday the 27th of May 2025 be confirmed? Moved Councillor Sypek, seconded Councillor Phil Byrne. Councillor Sypek, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Byrne? No? Great. Would any other councillor like to speak to the item? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. The next item on the agenda is foreshadowing of conflicts of interest. Does any councillor wish to flag a conflict of interest on any item on the agenda this evening? No. The next item on the agenda is presentations. I will be making the first presentation and then ask councillors for any presentations. Moonee Valley City Council is mourning the passing of our valued colleague and friend, Malcolm Ward. For the past decade, Malcolm was an integral part of our economic development team, spearheading our vision to be a small business-friendly city. He will be remembered as a hard-working and kind colleague with a gift for connecting people across Moonee Valley, especially within the small business community. Among Malcolm's many achievements was the rollout of the Better Approvals program, streamlining the business permit process for local traders. Residents who did not know Malcolm will have witnessed his work, from installing an ice rink on Pratt Street to a Ferris wheel in Niddrie and art activations along Puckle Lane. Malcolm had the ability to turn big ideas into reality. His contributions will continue to have a positive impact on all of us who live and work in Moonee Valley. We extend our condolences to all who knew and loved Malcolm, especially his family, friends and colleagues. Councillors, would any other councillor like to make a presentation? Councillor Isa?
If it's okay, Mayor, I'd just like to add my words of deep sympathy to Malcolm Ward's family and friends, and also make some personal comments about how valued Malcolm was as a staff member, particularly by traders, trading associations, with whom many of us around the table worked really closely, and a number of us worked closely with Mal over the years. I know that people like Anna Henderson from the Moonee Ponds and Flemington Traders Association would also share that deep sympathy and sadness about the loss of Mal. Just like to share a little memory that I think captures his kindness and quiet, the quiet and steadfast assistance that he provided to councillors. The Pinoak Festival, Multicultural Festival, we've been fortunate to have a number of African women cook meals in the past few years, but it's been quite difficult to organise that. There are street trader permits and a number of logistical issues. And each year, Mal has just quietly worked through some really complicated issues to make sure that happens. And the very first year, we were selling the food and we got it all ready, and my little square payment died. And Mel just quietly, and I was stressed to the max, and Mel just quietly sidled up and just said to me, well, you know, no worries, Rose, you just take the money, I'll just write the tickets. And we just stood there for an hour or so, him helping me in that moment of need. And just a memory that I think captures the way that he just stepped into the breach and solved problems with, as I say, great kindness. He will just be so missed, and would want to express sympathy to his family and friends.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Any other presentations? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd also like to echo my sympathies to Malcolm's family, friends and work colleagues here at Moonee Valley City Council. Prior to my election to Council, I was the President of the Niddrie Traders Association, so dealt with Malcolm regularly, and I remember well the Ferris wheel in Wallace Mall up there in Niddrie. It was an amazing community activation, and Malcolm did a lot to make that happen, but also you know, even when we didn't always agree, you could tell that Malcolm was on the side of business owners and passionate about what he was doing, and he'll be sorely missed.
Thanks, Councillor Jones. Any other councillor have a presentation? Councillor Cosgrove.
Thank you. I just wanted to, I guess, make a presentation on the Women in Business Lunch that occurred on the 30th of May. Slightly different tone, but actually one of the annual events that the Echo Dev team put on, and Malcolm and Craig and the rest of the team do a fantastic job every year. And this year was no exception. We had over 300 women attend, and we had a keynote speaker from Maz Farrelly, and Alicia Loxley was there, and there was lots of great advice and lots of laughter and networking, and it was a really wonderful event. Yes, and sad that it was the last one that Mel was at, but a great event enjoyed by all.
Thank you, Councillor Cosgrove. Any other councillor have a presentation? Councillor Phil Byrne.
Thanks very much, Mayor. On Sunday, I attended with a lot of other Moonee Valley and Maribyrnong residents at the Maribyrnong Community Centre for the Community Preparedness Day event that Moonee Valley City Council partners with the City of Maribyrnong with. And the aim of this event is to equip the community with essential skills and knowledge for emergency situations. And it was interesting to go there with my daughter because things that were new to her were very much reminders for me as well. So it was a very good day. So there's lots of information sessions and interactive activities, really around that sense of being ready for the event of an emergency and resilience as well. And also just a shout out to the SES and Red Cross who and the others who made the day work and who also continue to work to keep us all safe. So hats off to them. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other presentations from councillors? Councillor Isa.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd also like to acknowledge the work of staff and community members who celebrated Eid al-Adha during Flemington Harbour on Saturday the 7th of June. Unfortunately, I was away and wasn't able to attend, but I understand that there was a huge number of community members who turned up to celebrate this Eid al-Adha, which is also known as Eid 2 or Greater Eid, and it marks the culmination of the Hajj pilgrimage rites at Mecca and is celebrated by Muslims worldwide. So well done to the team for organising all the food, coffee from various cultures from our local Somalia, Indonesian, Sudan, Eritrea and Ethiopian communities, and hopefully it will occur again next year and I'll be able to attend next year. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Isa. Any other presentations? Councillor Theocrides.
Thank you, Mayor. Unfortunately, like Rose, there was an event that I couldn't attend but I think it's worth noting an important day that was recognised by the Moonee Valley City Council, and that was World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. So in recognition of this important day, Council hosted, what I believe to be was a successful event on Thursday the 19th of June at the Callaway Avenue Neighbourhood Centre in Moonee Ponds. The event aimed to empower older community members to better manage their financial affairs and access essential services and supports. It also offered a gentle approach in helping older people access information on the topic, where attendees had the opportunity to speak with various service providers to learn about their rights, receive practical advice on wills, improve financial wellbeing and access my aged care. So all extremely important topics that they received great information on. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other presentations? I've got a couple. This year, one of our very own Disability Advisory Committee members, Natale, was recognised in the King's Honour Awards. Natale received the Public Service Medal in recognition of his contribution, leadership and advocacy for people with disability and influence on the culture of access and inclusion in Victoria Police and the broader public sector. Natale was one of 9 Victorians recognised with meritorious awards in this year's King's Birthday Honours list. So congratulations to Natale. My last presentation is, one of the great pleasures of being Mayor is being invited to schools and also hosting schools here in the Chamber to talk to students about their civics curriculum, as well as making a meaningful difference in our community and also promoting our Better Moves Around Schools program. In the last month, we've welcomed St Brendan's Primary School and visited Lowther Hall and Avondale Primary School. A big thank you to our local schools and teachers for engaging with Council, and also a big shout out to all the amazing children in our municipality. Our future is absolutely in good hands. Thank you, everyone. Now we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is petitions and joint letters, and we have one listed on the agenda to be tabled by Councillor Theocrides. That item is 6.1, request for lighting and visual amenity enhancements to Crossway South Reserve. Thank you, Councillor Theocrides.
Thank you, Mayor. So Council has received a petition with 19 signatures from residents around the Crossway South Reserve. The petition requests that Council install pathway lighting in the 3 laneways leading to the reserve, as well as lighting within the reserve itself to address safety concerns. With respect to the endangered native grasslands in the reserve, they also ask that Council explore ecologically sensitive enhancements to improve the visual amenities and community use of the space.
Thank you, Councillor Theocrides. In accordance with Governance Rule 62.4, I refer the petition to the CEO for consideration. Councillors, do we have any other petitions or joint letters? Thank you, Councillor Isa. What is your petition?
Mayor, I have a petition that's a request to reduce the speed limit on Queen's Avenue, Ascot Vale to 30 kilometres per hour. Council has received a petition with 16 signatures from residents of Queen's Avenue, Ascot Vale. The petition requests that Council and the Department of Transport and Planning reduce the speed limit on Queen's Avenue to 30 kilometres per hour in the interests of improving pedestrian and cyclist safety, reducing rat running and protecting children walking to and from local schools, childcare and Ascot Vale train station.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. In accordance with Governance Rule 62.4, I refer the petition to the CEO for consideration. Councillors, do we have any other petitions or joint letters? If not, we've now come to public question time, and we've received 4 questions this evening. The first 2 questions are from Peter Robinson, who is not joining us this evening. So on behalf of Peter, his first question reads, why is MVCC arranging its own treaty with Aboriginal Australians? Thank you, Peter. I refer to the CEO, Helen Swee, to respond.
Thank you, Peter. Through the Mayor, Council, through its endorsed Bagru-Bagru-Jerin reconciliation plan, commits to work in partnership with Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung Cultural Heritage Aboriginal Corporation to discuss a treaty agreement. To date, treaty negotiations are underway between the First Peoples Assembly and the Victorian State Government. Treaties at a local government level can only be initiated through this process. To date, Moody Valley City Council has not been invited to this process yet. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. Peter's second question reads, MVCC over the colder months will have only a couple swimming pool lanes open for general swimming during peak periods, and these are 25-metre lanes. Does MVCC think that this is adequate for over 100,000 residents? Thank you, Peter. I refer to the CEO, Helen Swee, to respond.
Thank you, Peter. Through the Mayor, the MOVE leisure facilities, including Kilo East and Escoville Leisure Centres, provide aquatic and wellness programs aimed at improving health outcomes for the diverse and varying needs of Moody Valley residents. The 24-metre pools offer lanes for lap swimming, lessons, core fitness, squat training, and wellness activities, with lane allocations based on safety requirements for public pools and user needs. Lapland availability for the aquatic facilities is listed on the public website, with a minimum of 6 to 8 lanes available across the two sites at all times. Lapland records show availability for swimming during peak and off-peak times. The venue manager will continue monitoring lane usage to ensure ongoing adequacy for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. The next two questions are from Ray Bird, who is not joining us this evening. So on behalf of Ray, question 3 reads, with regards to the recent enhancements made to the drains at the corner of McNay and Dean Streets, please describe the risk management assessments undertaken by Council prior to the approval for the works. Thank you, Ray. I refer to the CEO, Helen Swee, to respond.
Thank you, Ray. Through the Mayor, in 2023, Council received a reactive inquiry from the community regarding the condition of the existing drainage pit at the corner of McNay Street and Dean Street in Moonee Ponds. In accordance with the Road Management Plan 2021 to 2025, Council officers investigated the site and found that the drainage pit lead to be unstable and in need of repair. The site was immediately made safe, with permanent repairs completed approximately 1 week later. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. Ray's second question has been disallowed in accordance with Governance Rule 61.8.3, as it deals with a matter already answered at the May Council meeting. The next item on the agenda is reports from delegates. Councillors, do we have any reports as delegates? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. On Friday the 20th of June, I attended the Essendon Fields Airport Community Advisory Consultation Group meeting. These sessions provide updates on airport operations, community engagement efforts, including their recent survey of the community about what the community would like to see in the Hart Precinct, as well as upcoming development plans. I took the opportunity to reshare local community feedback that had already been shared with the airport, and I think this is a valuable forum for maintaining that dialogue for aviation-related impacts in Moonee Valley. And I'm a member of that, being the local ward councillor on which the airport is a part of. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Any other delegates? Yes, Councillor Philbert.
Thanks very much, Mayor. Earlier in the month, I attended the Metropolitan Transport Forum on behalf of Council. Not a lot to report, although there was a pretty impressive presentation from the Department of Transport and Planning's bus director, mostly with regard to the rollout of bus services in growth areas. A question that was put to the Director from myself was around an update as to the e-bus rollout across metropolitan Melbourne. So hopefully at future meetings I can come back with that answers to that question that was put on notice, and I just note that that's an issue that's often raised by the community. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Would any other councillor like to report as delegates? No? If not, we now move on to item 9, which is reports. And the first item, or the first report, is item 9.1, adoption of, excuse me, adoption of 2025/26 budget, declaration of rates and charges, and revenue and rating plan 2025 to 2029. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is shown on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Isa.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move an alternative motion that I'll read.
Yes, please. Thank you.
That Council resolves to A, adopt the budget 2025-26, incorporating the 4-year budget in brackets, attachment 1 in brackets, in accordance with section 94 of the Local Government Act 2020 with the following changes. 1, an additional funding allocation of $30,000 for Canning Reserve Turf Maintenance Equipment Shed, in brackets in response to submission 24, will be allocated to the Sports Field Renewal Program. 2, an additional funding allocation of $200,000 for municipal-wide graffiti removal to assist traders in response to submission 20, in brackets noting the referral to council plan deliberations of ongoing programming to manage municipal-wide difficult-to-remove graffiti. 3, an additional funding allocation of $120,000 for the Developing Our Street Art Scene program, including, following consultation with stakeholders, a mural at Pridham Plaza, Flemington, and Mason Square, Moonee Ponds, and identifying further sites for street art in response to submission 20, noting the referral to council plan deliberations of ongoing and municipal-wide approaches to beautifying retail areas, in brackets. 4, an additional allocation of $10,000 for the concept development and consultation for increasing the tree canopy and vegetation with changes to parking in Illawarra Road, Flemington, as part of the Newmarket Local Area Traffic Management implementation in response to submission 10. And 5, an additional $150,000 for the development of a planned recreational facilities plan, including new social recreational facilities in open spaces, in brackets including basketball half courts and gym equipment, close brackets, in response to submissions 8 and 15. B, note the following items funded through existing budget items and operational funding. 1, plantings and treatments to address safety concerns at Strathayed Reserve Playground in response to submission 45. 2, fence renewal and plantings in accordance with prioritised programs in response to submission 34. 3, investigate signage to direct pedestrians to safer paths and other safety measures at Strathnava Reserve in response to submission 9. And 4, an increased level of service for the trial and evaluation of additional street sweeping in areas experiencing increases in seasonal leaf fall in response to submission 13. C, note the allocation by Council of $592,000 of the 2023-24 rates funding surplus to the Community Carbon Emissions Reduction Reserve, CCERR in brackets, on 27 May 2025, following approval of the draft budget and for inclusion in the 2025-26 budget, in response to submission 39, and request the Chief Executive Officer to consider the allocation of funds should they be available from the 2024-25 rates funding surplus for reinvestment in the CCERR. D, note the referral to the grants process with a review of the funding available for the social support stream in response to submissions 5, 6 and 11. E, request further information be presented to Council on the allocation and implementation of the existing funds in the scoreboard reserve in response to submission 30. F, note the summary of submissions received, attachment 3, the detailed list of submissions received, attachment 4, and the summary report on the consultation participation, attachment 5. The minutes of the hearing of submissions held 12 June 2025, attachment 6, prepared on behalf of the Hearing of Submissions Committee. G, advise all submitters in writing that Council has considered their submissions relating to the draft budget 2025-26, incorporating the 4-year budget, thank them for their contributions and advise them of the outcome of the consideration as it relates to their specific submission, noting as appropriate where submissions have been referred to deliberations on the Council Plan and Long-Term Capital Works Program, in brackets including but not limited to submissions 3, 4, 14, 18, 19, 21, 23, 25, 27, 28, 29, 30, 32, 34, 36, 37, 38, 39 and 40. Items H, I, J and K as per the officer's recommendation, although noting the renumbering. L, request the Chief Executive Officer to review the e-notice payment method to ensure ratepayers are provided with alternative payment methods to choose from. And M and N per the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cosgrove. Councillor Isa, would you like to speak to the motion after you've had a drink of water?
I was just going to double check that there was an of missing from C, and I was just going to double check that made its way in.
Yes, I think it did. Yeah. Yes, it did.
Thank you.
Take your time.
Look, budgets are really complicated. Perhaps the length of that motion is demonstrative of how complicated the budget process is. It's not just a matter of putting numbers next to projects or resources, which includes staff. Costs are fluid, expenses are fluid, and projects and resources are to some degree the cost of those is to some degree speculative. Our officers work extremely hard to try to manage the pressures of asset renewal and upgrade, appropriate staffing and resources, appropriate levels of service, and then the capital works program, and to try to put all of these pieces of the puzzle together to reach a balanced budget that can take us through. And so our budget is a plan, and it's always a somewhat imperfect plan. There's always things that need to shift and move throughout the process and throughout the year. So the budget that we're putting forward now is the result of over 6 months of hard work from councillors and officers, closer to really 12 months, because I think the budget process starts for the next year at the closure of a financial year. And so this budget represents our very best efforts to both meet our obligations and to deliver on community needs and aspirations. It's never going to be able to do everything that we want it to do, but we have tried and worked really hard to meet needs and aspirations of our community. In April, we passed our draft budget, and since then we've heard 46 submissions, 20 of whom were presented orally at our hearing submissions on the 12th of June. And so tonight's final budget motion that I've just read itemises some proposed amendments in response to the submissions that we've heard. I'll go through these as comprehensively as I can in 2 minutes and 30 seconds that I have, but I'll try not to go over time, Mayor. But it does mean that I probably won't be able to cover everything on here. Some of the additions include a shed for the Avondale Heights cricket club to cope with some equipment for a turf wicket that wasn't accommodated otherwise through the program. The municipal-wide graffiti removal is something that we tried a few years ago with great success across the municipality, and traders and residents alike were grateful for that extra investment to deal with the hard-to-get graffiti removal. Where we have graffiti above shops or in some really difficult places, there's some great benefit and efficiencies, as well as just logistics in combining, in council taking the lead in removing that graffiti. A lot of that graffiti hasn't returned, and it's really made a difference to our streetscapes. With this $200,000, we can not quite deal with all areas of the municipality, but as many as possible. In conjunction with graffiti, street art is something that delights our community and traders, and so we're investing some more money in a municipal-wide program for street art. Another important addition is $150,000 for the Play and Recreational Facilities Plan. At the moment, we don't have a plan for dealing particularly with some of our smaller open spaces, and we really need to plan out some programs, particularly in response to many requests that we get from the community. I'm not able to get through everything. I would just like to mention that we did invest.
Have 30 seconds left.
Yeah, close to $600,000 in our community carbon emissions reduction reserve. This is some money that was found following the draft budget, and it's a reinvestment from savings that we've managed through our program to reinvest in further measures to do the important work to deal with the climate emergency. I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you, Councillor Arzo. Councillor Cosgrove, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Very happy to support the amendment, which, further to the draft budget that we circulated, really deals with the community submission process. And as Councillor Arzo mentioned, we had 46 submissions, and a number came and spoke to us. And it's so valuable to get both feedback on the budget from the community, but also for people to be telling us things that are missing in the community, things that we're missing out on, things that, you don't know what you don't know. And so I really want to thank all the residents and community groups that came and spoke to us, because it was enlightening and really helped shape this amendment. We, as part of kind of drafting a financially responsible budget, we earmarked some money to go to these community submissions, recognising that it's the value in them. And so I think the length of the motion speaks to how much time that as a councillor group, we, and with lots of help from officers, have spent going through them to try and make sure we can address all the concerns that were raised. There were a few that we haven't necessarily given budget money to, but we've been able to direct to the operational budget. There's some fencing at Stratherd Reserve to try and keep kids from chasing their basketballs onto the road in that kind of tricky spot. Some upgrades to fencing and plantings at some of the parks. And Strathneva Reserve, which is a really tricky spot with lots of kids that play soccer. And we don't have a solution for an access way at the moment, but doing what we can to try and increase the safety around there for now. I guess the only other thing I wanted to say was that there's things that we haven't gotten to, and they're kind of a lot of the bigger ticket things, and things like active transport routes and how we deal with pavilions and how we deal with new libraries. And as a group at the start of council term, sort of, our first budget at least, I think there's generally some consensus that we want to be doing that work as strategically as possible.
You have 30 seconds left.
Not sort of ad hoc through a budget year by year, which is why so many items were referred to the long-term capital works and other deliberations, and I really look forward to doing that work. We're not ignoring it, we're just doing it.
Thanks, Councillor Cosgrove. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Theocrides.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of points with regards to the motion. So, first point with reference to item A, Amendment AI, the additional funding allocation for Canning Reserve turf, or Avondale Heights Cricket Club turf maintenance. Sorry, governance, can you put it down so that I can read that AI of the motion? Yeah, thank you. For the equipment shed, in response to submission 24, with regards to that, I just wanted to add a little bit of information in regards to that, and why I'm happy that it's been included in this motion. This sort of project would normally be included in the development of an annual capital work budget, but it was the decision to re-enter senior cricket teams happened after the draft budget was finalised, and so I'm glad to see that given the decision of the club to re-enter the senior cricket teams and the need for this equipment to house the larger equipment that they have purchased, I'm happy to see the inclusion of this in the motion. Also happy to see items A2 and 3, in particular the mention of it being noting it that it will be a municipality or Moonee Valley-wide allocation of funding. I think that even though submissions relate to particular spaces or particular locations, things like this, I think that gives that sort of strategic approach to priority lists and how we better use our money and ensure that all areas of the municipality are looked after with regards to graffiti removal to assist traders and beautifying the retail streets with the street art program. So I was happy to see the inclusion of the program being municipal-wide. And just quickly with regards to A5, the play and recreational facilities plan, I love the idea of this because it, again, gives us a strategic approach on how to have a look at
5 seconds left.
Have
Would
a
you
look
like
at
a little
recreational and play
extension?
areas. It's foreshadowed in the open space strategy. So again, just
30-second
Thank you.
extension.
So again, just another strategic approach in looking at how we utilise these spaces better, which is great to see. And finally, in item D, with regards to the referral to the grants process with a review of the funding available for social support stream. Happy to see this and a review of the grant process to ensure that our social support programs and social support groups, like the seniors groups,
Time is up.
are
Sorry,
looked after as
Councillor.
well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Theocrides. Would any other councillor like to speak on the motion? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. It's been a long day. It's been a long 6 months. There's been a lot of discussions backwards and forwards. And I've come to the decision that I can't support the proposed budget in its current amended form. Earlier this year, we endorsed the draft budget. This proposed budget that was put out for community consultation was already the product of intense discussion, tough trade-offs and deliberate prioritisation. And I'd like to thank all of our officers for their hard work to date on where we got to and where we are this evening. And I'd also like to thank the community members for sharing all of their submissions and feedback in the time we've had for open consultation. I just wanted to work through some of the concerns I have with the proposed budget as presented towards us and some of the proposed amendments. I can recognise that the Canning Reserve shed was the decision of the Avondale Heights Football Club, Cricket Club to play turf cricket after the proposed budget did create some problems, and I can potentially accept that that needs to be in the program, but I'd like to make sure that we have a situation going forward where this type of thing doesn't happen and ensure our processes are improved there in the future. I can also potentially support the idea of municipal-wide graffiti removal, but as previously flagged, there was a program where it was in the operational budget previously, and I think that's where this type of program belongs, and I'd like to see us discussing that as part of our own council plans and ensuring it ends up there moving forward, instead of creating a precedent where we're relying on amendments to the budget to come up with this at the last minute. The biggest concern for me, though, and not because I'm anti-street art, is the $120,000 flagged for street art, and because of the mention of particular areas. I feel like art does enhance our city. I'm not going to disagree with that, but this proposed allocation feels symbolic more than strategic. I don't think enough effort has been put into deciding whether these areas were the best area for this program. I'm not sure whether this is enough money to develop the full list of sites, to develop the delivery, and also maintain this art after it's created. So I think that a better program rather than something ad hoc here is something that we should be discussing as a council cohort further for further planning as part of our long-term budgets. Also, the Illawarra Road tree canopy design consultation, I feel like this is something
20 seconds left,
that is being
Councillor
added.
Jones.
Ooh, that doesn't
Would you
go
like
very
an
fast.
extra
Look,
30
I'll leave it there.
seconds?
I will be voting against this budget in its current form, but I'd like to also foreshadow that I do have a foreshadowed motion should this motion not pass.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Councillor Jones. Would any other councillor like to speak on the motion? Councillor Sypek?
Thank you, Mayor. Firstly, let me say the officers did a magnificent job doing the draft budget, and if that's what we were voting on tonight, I would also fully support the draft budget because the work by their officers has been outstanding in there. I too, once again, have concerns about the amendments that have been proposed, and and some of the reasons why is we had 46 applicants to our budget submissions, and we're going to say to about 90% of them, thanks for coming, here's a participation certificate coming in next year. So I'm just concerned that we haven't catered for a lot more than what we have. The other concern I have is the rate rise of 2.5% plus borrowings. Now, if we didn't have borrowings of multi-million dollars, we would be at 3.5%. And I think in a cost of living crisis right now, we should have sharpened the pen a little bit more rather than increasing our rates. The other concern that I have is I've had a look at some of our previous budgets, and in 2023-24, our capital works was 51.9 million. In 24-25, it was 48.8 million. And this year, it's going to be 45.9. My concern is asset renewal. I don't want to get to a point where, at least about a decade ago, this council was in a asset renewal crisis. We were in the red. We couldn't afford to do it, and we've slowly worked our way back to getting into the black, looking after all our assets. But with the capital works budgets going down every single year, that is gravely concerning to me. I feel very, very concerned about this, and the last and not least, the state levy that we have to collect. That puts grave concern to me as well. But it is what it is. We have to do it, and I will be not voting for this amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Sypek. Would any other councillor like to speak on the motion? Councillor Philburn.
Thanks very much, Mayor. Yeah, I guess just a couple of points. I also, like my colleagues, want to extend a huge thanks to officers for their work on the budget and keeping us all informed, bring us up to speed, and walking us through the through the process. I also do want to thank the people that did take the time to put a submission into us. And when you look through that list of submissions, there's none or very few that you don't want to try and help, to be honest. They're all very well thought out, and I've personally found all of those submissions really helpful in terms of those discussions we have about where things sit in terms of operations and capital works and those sorts of things with regards to the council plan as well, and with regards to other important pieces of work that are also in play at the moment. And I guess just sort of for me, just sort of noting the integrated transport work which is underway, and how hopefully that can deliver some very positive concrete improvements to active transport across the whole of Moonee Valley, and also just acknowledge the amendment as it's proposed does flag that really important strategic work that I won't go into the detail because other councillors have spoken to that quite well tonight, but I do feel a lot of that will significantly help us in future years when it comes to making these decisions about what happens in what park and so forth. It just jumps out as a gap, and again, that's been prompted by a submitter. And I don't think that's a consolation prize or a participation award. I think that's really helpful work that can help the Shire as a whole. Also, just want to note that whoever ends up rolling the wicket at Canning Reserve, I hope they leave something in it for the bowlers.
Councillor, you've got 30 seconds. And
just on the street art, in terms of just looking at the recommendation there, it does sort of flag the consultation steps required and that work that will identify the additional sites as well, and also just acknowledging the early work of councillors on important assistance with cost of living. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Would any other councillor like to speak to the item? Councillor Barnes.
Thank you, Mayor. I've written a massive speech here, so be ready. It'll take me exactly 3 minutes. Budget. It's a scary word for council, but it's a great debate for councillors. Where does the money go? Who gets it? Who misses out? We have 9 wards and only X amount of dollars. It's like being a kid on Christmas Day. We all want a bike, a train set, a Barbie doll, a cubby house, an Xbox. The money only goes so far. So good luck for what you asked for. And if you don't get it, my condolences. But there's always next year. I like what Councillor Rose has put on the board. It would have taken her a hell of a long time to get it all up there and get it all into perspective. But when you read the dollar signs and the figures and the values, I'd love to fix every playground, every kindergarten, every elderly home and everything in this municipality, but that ain't going to happen. So I just hope we can all get the people what they want and someone can find a rainbow with a gold nugget under it and fix this MVCC up and it'd be great. But I haven't got that magic wand. So bring the budget on and bring the debate on. So good luck, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Samantha Byrne.
Thank you, Mayor. I will. Budgets are incredibly difficult. There's no doubt about that. And I will start by thanking the officers. I think that throughout the whole process, they have been fantastic and their responses have been incredibly quick and the process has been great. I might start with the things that I really like. I quite like the draft budget. I think I said that at draft budget time. And I thought that it was a good start. We're in a very tricky position at the moment where we're in the final year of a council plan budget, but the first year of a council term with the new council plan coming that will be at the end of the come towards the end of the year. So many things got put on hold, and I think that in 4 years' time, I think we can really learn from this experience, because we have submissions 3, 4, 14, 18, 19, 21, 23, 25, 27, 28, 29, 30, 32, 34, 36, 37, 38, 39 and 40, which were all, people spent a lot of time doing these submissions, and we've just had to advise them that we're considering these submissions relating to the draft budget. We're going to thank them, but, we will consider them, I suppose, another time, in terms of the council plan. And I think that in 4 years' time, the learning from this is that if we were clear on that, or maybe we could just communicate it a little bit better, because people are probably tuning in right now, really hoping for their name to come up on the screen, and it's not. And it's through no fault, it's just how it works with budgets and council plans and the timings of things. But I think we can improve that. One thing that I do like is the $150,000 for the development of a play and recreational facilities plan. I think Councillor Cosgrove spoke about strategic planning on so many of our things, and this is one that comes up regularly, whether it's for half courts or for equipment or playgrounds. I think there is an appetite to invest significant money into this space, and we want to do things well, and by having this plan it will allow us to do that. I'm very mindful of the time, so I will get to where I'm going. We don't have the equivalent plan for developing our street art program. I did note that there was, I think it was 65 grand for the street art scene program, and this is obviously an extra 120,000, but we're choosing where we want that. I don't think that there was a plan as to why it was these particular places.
Councillor Byrne, sorry, you've got 13 seconds left.
Could I please have a 30-second extension?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because of that, I am kind of, I think that is breaking the process, or breaking how we are trying to do things. We are trying to do things better. We are trying to get away from just plucking things. So I will ask, Mayor, if points 1 to 5 we can vote on separately, please. And I'm mindful of time, but I would, yes, appreciate that. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Byrne. I have taken into consideration your request, but as we need to pass a balanced budget, I will not be separating the motion. We'll have to pass it as one. Councillor Isa, would you like a right of reply?
Thanks, Mayor. I'll just speak to a few things that were raised. Look, these amendments deal with 0.2% of a $221 million budget. They are just, we didn't have much money to respond to submissions, to the 46 submissions with, and the amendment has tried to identify those which are best placed for future discussions through our capital works plan. As Councillor Samantha Byrne rightly pointed out, we're dealing with a bit of a malalignment of council plan and budget, so that this budget refers to the existing council plan. We're about to embark on setting our capital works plan for our new council plan, and many of the submissions will be given some dedicated deliberation through that process. So I think some comments around the table have suggested that if there's not in this budget, they're not being considered, and that's just not the case. There's a number of I've read numbers of submissions that are absolutely going to be considered through our capital works long-term capital works planning. The draft budget was supported by all councillors, so really just the changes here are about this very small part of the budget that is in response to the submissions. The points around street art are that we are trying to embark upon a program, and the officer's advice is that this is I'll ask for an extension because I didn't ask for one earlier.
Sure,
thank you.
30 seconds.
The officer's advice was that this isn't the amount of money that's needed to address this in a strategic way, to identify some sites. Mason Square has a current mural street art that is about to expire, and the preliminary work has been done at Flemington at Pridham Plaza with the traders, so that one's ready to go. So that's why those two have been identified as early starters in a program that we hope to develop over the coming year. I wanted to reiterate to officers our thanks for the hard work that goes into this, and again to reinforce for everyone making a submission that we are taking every single submission seriously in this budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. I'll now put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's Councillor Phil Byrne, Councillor Samantha Byrne, Councillor Cosgriff, Councillor Rose Isa, Councillor Theocrides and Councillor Adams. And those against, Councillor John Barnes, Councillor Jones, Councillor Sypek. I declare that motion carried. The next report is item 9.2 MV/379/2024 at 3 to 7 Keilor Road, Essendon. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is shown on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Cosgriff.
I'll support the officer's recommendation, Mayor.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Jones. Councillor Cosgriff, would you like to speak to the motion?
I will quickly. So the application is for a 5-storey block on the corner of Keilor Road and Mount Alexander Road, sort of behind the Lincolnshire Arms, and it's for 9 3-bedroom residences with retail underneath. I really like that this proposal, the type of housing, 3-bedroom apartments. I think that's something that's we need more of in the area, and I really like with the officer's recommendation and some conditions that they've put forward that will be kind of preserving the heritage front of the building and trying to kind of keep that heritage element of the streetscape there. So very happy to support the officer's recommendation. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Cosgriff. Councillor Jones, would you like to speak to the motion?
Can I just check that we have the right officer's recommendation?
Yes. Sorry, Governance, the motion's disappeared.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just speak briefly to the motion. I am happy to also support the officer's recommendation, subject to the conditions outlined. I think that for me, what really stands out is the type of development, the fact that it's mixed use, commercial and residential, but also the fact that it's 3-bedroom residential apartments. I think a development of that style is great considering some of the other developments in the area, and provides mixed use for residential housing that is going to be great for our community growth going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. The next report is item 9.3, adoption of revised statutory planning delegation policy. After the distribution of the council meeting agenda, it was identified that an incorrect version of the attachment to this report had been uploaded on the council website due to an administrative error. As a result, I am seeking to defer this report to a future council meeting. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Samantha Byrne.
Thanks, Mayor. I would like to move that Council resolves to A, note that Attachment 1 draft statutory planning delegation policy uploaded to the website is the incorrect version due to an administrative error, and B, defer item 9.3, adoption of revised statutory planning delegation policy report to a future council meeting with the revised draft statutory planning delegation policy included as Attachment 1.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Sypek. Councillor Byrne, would you like to speak to the motion?
Unfortunately, sometimes these things happen, and I think the really good thing is that it was picked up. So we just go through the process now, and we will very excitedly speak on this in a month's time for people who are so eager to hear about our statutory planning delegation policy.
Thank you, Councillor Samantha Byrne. Councillor Sypek.
Yes, Mayor, I concur with Councillor Byrne that this should be referred to a future council meeting, and that way it will give due process for the community to read the right version.
Would any other councillor like to speak on this item? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. The next report is item 9.4, provision and maintenance of the Moonee Valley Electric Vehicle Public Charging Network. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is shown on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Phil Byrne.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the officer's report subject to an amendment. And
Yep. What's
the amendment is that Council resolves to points A, B and C on the screen to be taken as read, but also note that add the following sections to the officer's recommendation. At point D, note that the Ascot Vale Leisure Centre has not been included in Tranche 1 as car park upgrade works are currently underway at this location, and that this centre would be prioritised in future tranches. At point E, note that officers continue to investigate options for improved curbside electric charging options in Moonee Valley, including, point 1, monitoring the existing private curbside electric vehicle charging trial currently underway in the city of Port Phillip. 2, opportunities to partner with electricity distribution companies, electricity retailers and the Victorian Government regarding curbside power pole mounted electric vehicle charging. At point 3, options for residents to use their own electricity supply to charge their vehicle on the street, with any findings, options and outcomes to be addressed in the upcoming development of the integrated transport strategy.
Thank you, Councillor Phil Byrne. Just to explain to councillors, so the motion is the officer's recommendation with added points D, E, 1, 2 and 3. Is everybody clear on what has been put up on the screen? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Iser. Councillor Phil Byrne, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to the officer's report, the report notes the procurement of the maintenance contract for the MV charging network. Councillors are aware that we do have public charging in Moonee Valley, notably in Ascot Vale and Essendon North. And Council has in the past resolved to explore the expansion of the charging network, focusing on leisure centres, sporting facilities and shopping precincts. Ultimately, this will lead to providing the community with EV public charging opportunities at no net cost to Council. The officer's report also contains some good stats on the use of the Ascot Vale charges. So we just had, in 3 months, just under 10 tonnes of carbon dioxide was saved through vehicles using those charges alone. But there's more to do. It's still very difficult for many renters to charge other than a trickle if they have an EV. It's still extremely difficult and frustrating for anyone dealing with body corporate trying to get charging infrastructure in their flat or their apartment block. And whilst there's been some good recent changes in planning, as we've just seen with some of the conditions in the item earlier tonight, that's going to take some time to flow through into the system as well. So in terms of what that actually means and what that risks is, it may mean that you do get people who have an EV and then return to a internal combustion engine car at some point. And some stats around that are 24% cite the lack of availability of charging at home as a reason for doing that, and 35% would say that a lack of public charging limitations would also be a reason to that. And then obviously we miss out on things such as the emission savings and local air quality and noise and those sorts of things of cars in our street. I will still flag though that EVs are still cars. They're still going to block the streets at school pick up and drop off and those sorts of things. So anything sort of that I'm sort of mentioning today does not come at the expense of the importance of active transport. But there is obviously a significant advantage to facilitating a council area that is as EV friendly as possible. So really just the amended motion just notes that the current work is underway and the importance of tying the findings and the outcomes into the integrated transport strategy. It doesn't sort of preempt anything further than that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Councillor Isa, would you like to speak?
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, look, it's just so encouraging to see the work that's been done on this locally, and thank officers for the attention that they've given to really pushing this along, which was one of the things that we prioritised in our last council plan, and I'm hoping that we put it high on our list again, as well as Councillor Phil Burns mentioned, the need for active transport to not be deprioritised as we try to reduce our emissions through the use of electric vehicles. Look, this is with the electric vehicle charges, there's really that balance of making sure there's public charges that are available in locations that are convenient for people, while also responding to what I think was one of the number one queries that came to me during the council election, which was what's council doing about making it easier for me to charge my vehicle at home because I don't have off-street parking. And it's probably, it is, not everyone's going to be able to charge an electric vehicle at home, and we are working really hard to try to work out if there are ways that we can make it easier to have sort of micro charges in streets, whether it's on power poles or at little at smaller places, making it as convenient for people as we can to get to. But it's always going to be a mix of publicly available charges as well as people having some capacity to do it at home. It's a whole new sort of landscape that we're trying to work through here, is how do we make it easier for people to charge electric vehicles. And I'm just so glad that our officers are doing that hard work to work through those challenges. A number of years ago, as an electric vehicle owner, I declared a conflict sometimes on the reports that came to us because we weren't quite sure how many electric vehicles there were in the municipality, and I certainly don't have that anxiety now. Although it's hard to get the numbers of how many EVs there are in Moonee Valley, we're certainly doing doing so well that when we do go to the charges, there is often a little bit of a queue to get to them. So the more charges that we can put in place for people,
30 seconds left.
The more people will be encouraged and confident about being able to meet their charging needs. So great to see this report, and we'll keep watching how we meet these challenges. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Isa. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Barnes.
Thanks, Mayor. I've just got a couple of quick questions. You might be able to answer them for me, Phil, but I'm not sure, mate. They're just,
So, Councillor Barnes, are you seeking a point of clarification?
yeah, if I can, please. As we all know, parking's at a premium, and I was just wondering, on this, I know it's got City of Port Phillip, they've got the charging trial currently underway, which is good. How long does it take to charge an electric vehicle? Does anyone...
Thanks, Councillor Barnes.
No?
Would you like to have a go, Councillor Philburn?
I'm happy to touch on it in reply here, if that helps.
Yep, sure.
Thanks, Phil.
Okay. Yeah, all right. Was there another question?
No, that was just parking's at a premium. I'm just wondering how much time and space it would take up for other users of a parking bay, that's all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Barnes. Would any other councillor like to speak on the item? Councillor Theocrates.
Thank you, Mayor. I just in regards to improving curbside EV charging options, touching on also Councillor Isaa's comment about more people using electric vehicles in the municipality, and also reducing emissions and the importance of that. The reason why I like the amendment that Councillor Byrne has proposed is because according to the 2021 census, Moonee Valley wide, the people that travel to work by car were 44%, and only 6% used public transport. And while our officers work very, very hard to advocate public transport across the municipality with state government, and obviously not discounting our active transport and our efforts around that. I think that this is just another way of reducing emissions, and it allows us to continue to work on that commitment. And given, in 2021, 44% of the municipality drove to work that day, I think it's important. It's an important aspect of looking at emissions reduction. And I also, as Ward Councillor for Canning, like the inclusion in the officer's recommendation of the Military Road retail precinct, because contrary to the municipality-wide rate of 44.4%, in Avondale Heights, 55.9% people drove to work that day. So I love the officer's recommendation and the inclusion of Military Road, and also my colleague, Councillor Byrne, his amendments in that with regards to those points.
Thank you, Councillor Theocrates. Would any other councillor like to speak on the item? Councillor Philburn, would you like a right of reply?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Just to touch on a couple of the points that Councillor Barnes raised. In terms of parking, the officer's report talks about how in the study of the Ascot Vale parking, in terms of the the idleness, and people seem to drop in, charge and move. So certainly the charges themselves aren't hogged. And in that situation, you've just got the 2 car spaces taken up by those dedicated charges. Certainly some of the points to the amendment, looking at examples in other states, and this is the sort of detail that we would expect would come back to us, are the options around opportunity charging, where there's no delineation of the on-street car space between a dedicated EV charger. You've just got the infrastructure there, and if the car space happens to be available, you can utilise it. But I think that equity of car space and who uses it, in particular streets where there's no off-street parking, that'd be a key consideration going forward for sure. In terms of time, if you're just trying to trickle charge, you could be up to almost 2 days to charge off a PowerPoint. You could be 6 hours off a 32 amp circuit if you've got one. And if you go to an ultra fast one, you could be sort of around the 20 minutes, or the average one probably about 30 minutes, which is handy if you do charge in Ascot Vale, because you've got
20 seconds left, Councillor.
plenty of opportunities to duck into Union Road for a coffee. Cheers, thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Philburn. I'll now put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's Councillor Philburn, Councillor Samantha Byrne, Councillor Cosgrove, Councillor Isaac, Councillor Jones, Councillor Theocrides and Councillor Adams. All those against? Councillor Barnes, Councillor Sypek, and I declare that motion carried. The next report is item 9.5, award of contract for construction of kindergarten, in brackets, Coronation Kindergarten, close brackets, at 32 to 34 Rosebery Street, Ascot Vale, in brackets, negotiation number 10077, close brackets. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is shown on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Philburn.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Philburn. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Samantha Byrne. Councillor Byrne, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Philburn.
Thank you, Mayor. The report and recommendation is to award the contract for the construction of the Coronation Kindergarten. This is one of the 5 kinders that was funded under the Victorian Government Early Years program, and we've seen the really positive results flowing from that. So following the tender process, the recommendation is to award the construction contract to McColl Smith Projects. I just wanted to flag that this will be of significant interest to many in the community, and also I guess I'd, like all of our kindergartens, I acknowledge the people that have been in that difficult spot of missing out while we've been undertaking these amazing improvements that they are terrific improvements, and they will serve the community well. But it is frustrating, I guess, and it's unavoidably frustrating for those that are stuck in the middle with the kindergartens closing to undertake the works. So all going well. Demolition of the existing kindergarten should start towards the end of next or the start of next month. Building works in late August, and hopefully with works completed towards September 2026, and hopefully ready for a Term 1 start in 2027. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Philburn. Councillor Samantha Byrne, would you like to speak?
Thank you. And Councillor Philburn spoke incredibly well and covered all of the points. I feel like this is one of the short-term pain, long-term gain. You obviously feel sorry for the kids that are going to miss out that would have loved to have attended this kinder during closure, but the long-term benefits for the whole of the Ascot Vale area going forward going to be remarkable. For those who haven't seen the designs, it is going to be such a beautiful kinder, and I'm sure there'll be so many treasured memories coming from it after it is built. So looking forward to this one being done and the next ones to come as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Samantha Byrne. Would any other councillor like to speak on the item? Councillor Barnes. Okay, Councillor Cosgrove.
Thanks, Mayor. Just quickly, very happy to support the officer's recommendation as well, and excited that this redevelopment will add 20 places to the what we had at the current facility, so from 33 up to 55, and there'll also be a new co-located maternal and child health service, which I think is best practice and exciting to have, hopefully starting 2026, I think it was. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Cosgrove. Councillor Barnes.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Cosgrove. This makes me warm and fuzzy, and exactly why we do what we do, and I think everyone should be proud that this is up and going and got a tick, so very, very, very excited. Well done.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes. Would any other councillor like to speak on this item? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Councillors, item 10 on the agenda is notices of motion, and we have none listed on tonight's agenda, so we'll move on to item 11, urgent business. Councillors, do we have any urgent business? If not, we will move on to item 12, confidential reports. We have no confidential items listed on the agenda this evening. This is where we say goodnight to those watching the meeting via live stream and to those in the chamber. The next council meeting will be held on Tuesday, the 22nd of July, 2025. Good night. Okay, off air. Thank you, everyone.